Hi, you're on the Alice Reddit Stories channel. Subscribe to my channel as well as to my Facebook, the link is in the description. Enjoy watching. So my GF works in a field that requires her to travel out of town/state regularly. Usually between a day and a month or so. We've been together for 5 years and I was planning on proposing to her next summer on our anniversary. Backstory: I've known her for a few years, before we ever dated or anything. But she came into my life for real when I was getting out of a really bad 7-year marriage, because of my spouse cheating constantly. My girlfriend came in and told me she had strong feelings for me and that she wanted to pursue them. I was poor and practically homeless when I moved out of the house the wife and I bought. But this girl just wanted to spend all her time with me and didn't care that I was rebuilding from zero. Her dream job required her to go to school for a few years and cost a lot over time. I picked up a new job in construction and worked whatever I had to so she could focus on school. We were best friends and always had each other's backs and best interests over the years. I would come home destroyed and she would have food made and rub my back, and when she had trouble with anything school related I would stay up and help her figure it out. Now fast forward to the drama. We both have the Life 360 app on our phones so we could make sure the other person made it home safely after one of us made it home from work if we were apart and hadn't talked. She has been on a few trips before and I never heard of any issues. But this last trip something felt very off, and when we would FaceTime she was always in a hurry or just acting strange. She had kept mentioning a coworker, and then one night she said she was exhausted so she was going to bed. We both said we love each other and then said goodnight. Something was eating at me and I checked the Life app and saw her had moved from her room's location to another one on the other side of the building. My heart sank, but I thought maybe it was just her spending time with work friends and partying. She's not a big partier, but she is terrible with peer pressure. Anyways, now, for the first time in our relationship, I'm watching the dot in the room until about 3 a.m. her time, 2 hours ahead of me, then her phone starts charging. Her phone stayed there all night and didn't unplug or move until 6 a.m. I stayed up and watched, just praying to anything that she just stayed up all night with friends. We talked in the morning, but I didn't ask. I decided to see if she would mention going back out. I asked what time she went to bed and she said right after we got off the phone. So the next night I decided I had to break trust and go full spy mode. I stayed up and again she said goodnight and went back to his room. Phone charged till 6 and I went to bed around 4:30 after we talked. Later that night I asked how her night went and she said she went straight to bed. She apologized while crying that things had been off between us and said she felt like she was starting to feel a little distant from me. I asked her where she slept last night and she said her room. I told her he app shows her everywhere she goes, and that, as gross as it felt, I had to watch for 2 nights while she slept somewhere else. She said she messed up and slept in his room, but that was it. Then after a while she admitted they made out once, but that was it. After a few hours she said she'd tell me the truth, and she said they had sex both nights, but he tricked her to coming over, and then it just sort of happened. I was bawling, just a complete mess. I had a feeling something had happened a few days before the first night, but I tried to let it go until this. She flew home and was crying and telling me she was so sorry and that it wasn't like her and she doesn't know why it happened. I asked to see her phone and the texts between then are all gone. But she had texted her best friend and had told her how she has a crush on her coworker and how she just thinks he is adorable and so cute. Don't forget to support my channel by subscribing, thank you. I also looked in her Google history and saw that she looked up Plan B at 4 in the morning about a week before the sleepover that I first saw. Now she swears that's it. The guy won't answer texts or calls from her phone, and when I looked at the history it shows that she texted him at some point when she was home, I'm guessing to tell him not to respond, but she has been crying and crying, saying she fucked up and she really doesn't want to lose me. And as much as I see the pattern and know how bad it looks, I'm having a really hard time pushing her away. But I feel like there's way more to this that I'm not being told, and I'm a wreck. I want to talk to this fucking guy so I can hear his side of everything, but he won't respond. And I'm sorry for the gigantic rant, but I had to get it off my chest and I have no idea what to do from here. TLDR, girlfriend of 5 years went out of town and had an affair with someone 3 times that I know of. She says she feels guilty and loves me and doesn't want to lose me. I don't trust her at all right now, but I can't imagine letting her go. Just maybe needed some outside perspective because I'm falling apart. As stated, as far as I know, we both still want the relationship. However, I feel that over the past few days a lot has been said to hurt feelings on both sides, so I don't know where either of us really stands anymore. I have been trying to process my thoughts, but it is really difficult because my hormones are amplifying my emotions x10 and everything just feels awful to the point I am just ugly crying all of the time. So in the past, my boyfriend cheated on me by meeting guys on jobbed subreddits and having virtual sex with them for 11 months of our relationship, in the same way that he and I had intimacy as a long-distance couple, which is why I considered it cheating because that was supposed to just be something that we did together. He also has an unhealthy addiction to porn and with sex in general, and this fact never fails to create tension and arguments in our relationship. When I found out about what he was doing, I was very hurt, and that hurt still lingers now. It was a shock because I realized the person I was loving that whole time didn't exist. He lied to me about his sexuality, and he cared so little about me that he decided to share intimacy with other people because I guess I just wasn't enough. I put 100% into this relationship because I thought it was the real deal, but the only thing that has done is get me hurt by him consistently, and it always seems like I am the one experiencing the most hurt. We broke up and went our separate ways for a few months, and then we got back together because at the time we both agreed and realized that life was better when we were together. I missed him and couldn't see my life without him, so we addressed the cheating situation in a bit more depth. He came out to me as bisexual, something I admit has been hard for me to come to terms with, and I acknowledge that this could be because of some biphobic bias. I have been reading around this trying to understand my thoughts and feelings, because I have no problem with LGBT, but it seems to be a big question mark for my feelings when it involves the person I'm in a relationship with, so I'm trying to understand that, but also because I was / maybe still am mourning the loss of the person I thought I was in love with, who was not bisexual, and I guess the image I had with that person, so I am trying to come to terms with who he actually is. At that time I was so glad to have him back in my life that I was willing to accept that he could possibly start doing the Jobids thing again, but I asked him to be honest with me about it and I promised that we could work through it together. As time went on, things were okay. We have been together for about 2 years now. He is seemingly telling me the truth about things, has said he has not done the Jobids thing since he promised not to again, but I don't really know because I can't trust a word he says. I did ask him a bit further down the line after we got back together if he could refrain from watching porn on Reddit and other social media websites, because it feels triggering for me while I was / am still trying to process the cheating ordeal. He promised he wouldn't and time went on. This week I found out that he lied and he was still watching porn on Reddit. Finding this out made me feel a deep hurt in my chest, and if that is me being dramatic, or pregnancy amplifying my emotions, but it did not feel good to discover that he failed me in the only thing I asked of him for my own reassurance. Don't forget to support my channel by subscribing, thank you. I went to visit him over the summer, which was when I conceived. It was not planned, and it was difficult for us to decide what to do about it. At this point, you can assume that I was all in the relationship and everything was fine because the trip was great and we loved the time we got to spend together. He didn't appear to be cheating on me at that time. By all means, we were happy. When I returned home, we just started to have constant arguments about every stupid thing you can think of. I started to think if we're arguing that much, we just shouldn't be together. However, it's gotten worse, and I wonder if it's my pregnancy hormones stirring the pot. I mean, I had seemed to come to terms with the cheating at the time I visited him to the point where I felt no resentment or hate towards him at all, but now it is all I feel. Whenever I think of him, I just feel disgust and hatred, and these feelings scare me because he is someone I love so much. I don't know how to deal with these feelings. I've just suddenly somehow, between 2 weeks ago and now, started feeling resentment towards him. It started with me feeling uncomfortable about him watching gay porn. Then I realized the issue is just rooted in his sleazy behaviors around porn, his cheating on me in the past, and the fact I can't trust him. I am doing self-help therapy, and I've done a lot of journaling in the past few days and have come to the realization of a lot of things. However, it's obviously going to take time to put those things into practice and for the realizations to sink into my subconscious so that I can start having more reasonable feelings rather than feeling like hatred is boiling in my veins. Another thing that kind of pushed me over the edge though, and has caused me to block his number, was how he joked about cheating on me, after I described to him the trauma it was making me feel. Writing this, I can see how in a lot of ways that I am the problem. I have severe anxiety that is just reinforced every time he lets me down, and that is often. Because of this, I don't know how feasible it is to continue a relationship with him. I would like for him to be in my child's life if he wishes to be, because my main priority ATM is my child. It is hard at the moment though because all of this is so fresh, and I am constantly crying. And the crying is making me worry that being so stressed out is harming them. TLDR, my boyfriend cheated on me in the past. I forgave him and things were okay for a while. I became pregnant and unresolved feelings about the cheating have resurfaced since then, and I have developed relationship anxiety. I acknowledge that the anxiety I'm feeling is fueling arguments and hatred between us both. As a result of this, I wonder if it is for the best for us and my child that we break up permanently. I know this is all over the place, but any advice or insight would be appreciated, even harsh truths if necessary. I would just like to solve this so I can rest my mind. Context: our 1-year dating anniversary is in 2 weeks. We live in the same apartment building, but not together. While at work, my girlfriend called me to chat. I let her know I was still working, but would be off in about 15 minutes and that I couldn't talk right now. When we were saying our goodbyes, I said I love you, and she just replied with talk to you later and hung up. I noted she seemed to be mad, and was thinking about it until I called her back about 20 minutes later. During the second phone call, she was very abrasive and short. Like answering with "Why are you calling?" and being generally rude to what I was saying. It was awkward, so I told her I'd see her later. I was walking home and bringing her some groceries, and she again said just "talk to you later." I was shocked and thought she had hung up, so I said, "Oh, okay then." She heard this and said, "What?" "I love you." I explained it caught me off guard and said, "I love you, bye," and she said, "talk to you later," for a third time. When I got home, she acted like nothing happened, which she almost always does after we have an argument. And when I asked why she was mad at me in the first place, she said she never was. I got upset because I felt like she was lying to me, and she insisted she wasn't mad, and that I was wrong. She told me she sounded upset because she was talking while laying down, but I know that's a lie because her phone has an issue where if she lays down while talking it cuts in and out. I know without a doubt she was mad at the time. We have been together for a year, and I know when she's upset because of her tone and what she says. And it was very out of normal for her not to say "I love you" back 3 times in a row. TLDR, had phone call where girlfriend was mad at me. When asked later why she was mad, she said she never was. I know she's lying without a doubt. I don't see how she and I can work this out. She won't admit she was ever mad, and I know for a fact she was. Do I just pretend like this never happened for the sake of our relationship and move on, or is this something we need to talk about more? Don't forget to support my channel by subscribing. Thank you.
I am an unattractive woman, objectively. I've always been this way, and while I have accustomed myself to it, it nonetheless remains a daily fact that being an ugly woman sucks. I met my husband 4 years ago, and he is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. He has always and frequently told me I'm beautiful, and somehow sounded honest, without sounding like my mother, like someone without another option to answer. Last night, Saturday, he had a group of friends over to our home. They meet several times a month to hang out, catch up and play games. He has known most of these guys since high school. I was upstairs in the kitchen preparing drinks and snacks when and was able to hear them in the basement and began to eavesdrop, which I know was rude, but it wasn't really intentional. I realized they were talking about me. A couple of guys were teasing my husband about me, specifically about my looks. I could tell it was supposed to be funny. It was not. There was a point where one of them referred to me as a troll, and my husband blew up, started shouting. "Listen, shut the fuck up. I know that, my name is ugly, but shut up. She makes me happy. Does your bimbo of the week do that, Jim? Dave, how long has it been since we've hung out and you haven't bitched about your wife?" Not real names. He went on for a while, defending me. But all I could hear was "I know she's ugly, I know she's ugly, I know she's ugly" again and again in my head. It just broke me, I don't know why. I've always known I'm unattractive, but he isn't supposed to. He tells me I'm beautiful so sincerely and consistently I'd started to actually believe he thought that. I started to cry and ran into a shower so no one could hear me. When I came out an hour later, everyone had gone home, far earlier than normal. I went to bed and then haven't spoken to him all day today, but I think I've been able to avoid letting him know I'm upset, or avoiding him. I know rationally that what he said was true and sweet, and that I sound be happy he loves me and not my body, but it doesn't seem to matter. I just want to be pretty. God, I feel so shallow. I've been crying all day. What do I say to him? Part of me wants to call him a liar, to scream and yell and cry, while the other part just wants to run away and never have to talk to him again and acknowledge that even the greatest man I will ever meet can't find me attractive. TLDR, overheard husband admit to friends that I am ugly. Even although I knew this to be true already and the admitting happened in the midst of him explaining how much he loves me, it makes me feel terrible, worthless, and like I lost something I'd waited my whole life for. I'd given up hope I'd ever have a partner who even liked me before I met him. I lost a lottery spectacularly at birth, and my life feels like a big joke, a cycle of humiliation and punishment I did nothing to deserve. I don't even know how to talk to him. Update: first off, I'd just like to say thanks. Just wow. Over the last 2 days I've had literally hundreds of messages and PMs. You guys rock. Seriously, look at that thread. That's got to have one best positivity and sweetness to meanness and jerks ratios on all of Reddit, like ever. You guys knocked it out of the park for me. I'm still figure out why. So yesterday, after getting a barrage of support from you guys on my phone every couple minutes nonstop all day, I decided to try and confront my husband over what I'd overheard. After we were both home from work, I told him I needed to talk. I told him I'd overheard him and his friends, and he immediately started to apologize for them, saying they were jerks and assholes and that I should have told him I'd heard. I had to stop him to let me get a word in and tell him it wasn't his friends so much as it was what he said. When I told him what he said, his whole tone changed. I could tell wasn't expecting to be blamed. I had had the whole conversation planned out. I wanted to explain how it made me feel, how I thought he really was attracted to me, and how betrayed it made me feel to hear him that behind my back. But I just started to cry, and couldn't really communicate what I wanted to say very well. He was awesome though, and just held me, and then after a minute started to speak like he was reading right out of the nicest comments in the original thread, telling me he was just angry and didn't speak very well. That he really does find me attractive even if the world doesn't, and his friends don't. I calmed down pretty quick. I'd basically cried myself out the day before. He took me to his computer and showed me an email he sent to all of his friends on Sunday. I wish I could copy-paste it now, but he basically called all his friends assholes, said they'd crossed the line from good-natured trash talk to just being assholes, and then continued going far beyond. He said that, for time indefinite, they'd have to find another host. We're no longer welcome in my home. He actually said, my name's home. I thought that would make it sound like I was ordering him around being a bitch, but he said he just wanted to empathize how wrong what they were doing was. Seeing him stand up for me again made me happy, especially seeing me do it without talking bad about me, helping me believe it really was just heat of the moment bad word choice. He told me to wait in the room and left, coming back with a folder. He said he was going to give me this for Christmas, but that he'd get me something else. I tried to say no, but he insisted. It was plane tickets and brochures. He set up a trip in early January to this spa/hotel/resort thing in British Columbia. It was pretty mind-blowing. But I realized that it had to be several $1,000s he'd spent. We budget pretty thoroughly. He shouldn't have been able to spend that without me noticing. I asked where he got the money and he said he'd been planning this for more than a year and saving all the money assigned to his weekly spending money, and collecting where I wouldn't notice, change from groceries, etc. When I say that sometimes I'm not sure I deserve him, understand that I'm not having a crisis I need help dealing with. He's just really awesome. He's taking me out for dinner, so I have to go, but I'll be on again tonight. TLDR, everything is okay. Husband is an amazing person. I still wish I was prettier, but understand how lucky I am, how happy I should be, and how prettiness and happiness are not synonyms. Thank you Reddit for all the support. I owe you guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. There are many interesting stories.